WTVT Tampa, St. Petersburg, the station where news comes first. This is Pulse 13 Nightbeat with Kelly Ring, Andy Johnson's weather, and Mark Haggard with sports.
Good evening. President Reagan had hoped this weekend everybody forgot about the arms deal with Iran. Well, it has not happened. As the president was returning to the White House from Camp David, the Washington Post was reporting that he's under pressure to clean house. The paper says some of his California advisors want him to fire 3 officials whose names have been linked to the deal. That includes Secretary of State Schultz, Chief of Staff Don Reagan, and National Security Advisor John Poindexter. There's been no comment on that report from the White House. But on NBC's Meet the Press, Senator Sam Nunn of Georgia said a shakeup might do the administration some good.
Look at how decisions are made, and the president himself has to look at how decisions are made by the high source. That's why I think we need some wise people to come in and advise him about foreign policy now. We have to restore credibility to American foreign policy. That's the #1 challenge.
Nunn also says the CIA's role in the arms deal was greater than the public has been told. Now, not all the criticism is coming from within the country, though. Egyptian President Mubarak and Jordanian King Hussein issued a joint statement today condemning the deal with Iran. Mubarak says President Reagan should take corrective action at once. Hussein says he cannot understand the American thinking. Tampa police tonight are looking for the driver of a car which struck and killed a man near the intersection of Alaska and Juneau. The victim has not been identified. He is described as a white male between 35 and 40 years old. Police say the car which hit him is a 1976 Granada, driven by another white male with a passenger. And tonight, parts of Crystal River Nuclear Power Plant are off limits to workers. The level of radioactivity is so high in the nuclear reactor coolant pump that workers are not allowed inside. The level reportedly increased after radiation leaked from the system early yesterday. There were no injuries, though, and officials tell us no radiation seeped into the environment. But the leak could keep the nuclear plant out of service for about a month. Replacement costs could run as high as $250,000 to $350,000 a day. A Florida Power spokesperson told us he's not sure how much of that cost will be passed on to the consumer. Coming up on Nightbeat, scientists search for an answer to anorexia, and animal lovers now have an alternative to the taxidermist. Doctors are constantly looking for ways to treat anorexia. It's an illness that is becoming more and more common, yet there are no cures. In the past, doctors have tried to provide psychological treatment to anorexics, but as Health Beat reporter Steve Geiger tells us, there's a new treatment out that puts the patient's body ahead of the mind.
I was never comfortable at the weight that I was at, and once I started losing a little weight, then I kind of liked it. And I kept going and going and going.
Jean Marie Cox has anorexia nervosa. This 19-year-old college student weighs just 89 pounds, but worries she's still too heavy. This is Jean Marie's 3rd time in a hospital because of her eating disorder. She's always gained weight while under medical care, but then lost it again when she went home. To break this cycle, Dr. Michael Nussbaum is first treating Jean Marie's physical problems. He says you can't deal with the emotional causes until you treat the aspect of anorexia that can kill, malnutrition.
The brain actually shrinks from the malnutrition, and we think this is a severe problem, and this can affect the heart in that the heart rate slows down. People die from this disease, and they can die from an irregular heart rate where the heart all of a sudden stops beating.
Jean Marie takes part in behavior modification therapy to try to change her eating habits and increase her feeling of self-esteem. After 6 to 8 weeks in the hospital, Jean Marie will go home. While there, she will have weekly visits from a therapist to be sure she is maintaining her weight. Dr. Nussbaum's approach seems to be working. He claims 93% of his patients are at what he terms a reasonable weight. Steve Geiger, Pulse 13.
A pet can be a wonderful companion, but unfortunately they do not live forever. When some people lose their pets, they go through elaborate burial procedures. Others have their pets cremated, but now there is an alternative, especially for those who can't bear to part with their pets. We must tell you this procedure is somewhat unusual. Nightbeat Cindy Glicken explains.
The machine looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. With its cylindrical shape and array of buttons, it looks like it could transport you in time. What it actually does is freeze time in a way. It's a freeze-drying machine that keeps the family pet frozen forever.
The animal is shipped into us frozen. We position it, we semi-thaw it, and then position it the way the owner would like to have it positioned. Put it in our freeze-dry machine back here. It's a fairly slow process to remove all the moisture. We completely take all the moisture out of the animal, completely dry it, and then when it's dried and finished, we have it groomed and then returned to the owner.
Now, what's the difference between this process and taxidermy?
A taxidermist completely takes the hide off of the animal, stretches it over a frame, and preserves it that way, and the animal loses a lot of its natural characteristics. Freeze-dry process, we don't open the animal, and it comes out just exactly as it was in life.
The process costs about $500 for an average-sized pet and can go upwards of $2,000 for larger animals. As you can see, the possibilities aren't limited to just animals, though. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, if the process works so well on animals, why don't they try it on humans? You're not too far off the mark. Machines are being tested not only so morticians can use them, but they can be instrumental in medical research as well. Cindy Glicken, Pulse 13 on the Nightbeat in Pinellas Park.
Andy Johnson has the Monday morning forecast when Nightbeat returns.
Andy Johnson's weather broadcast displays the seal of approval of the American Meteorological Society.
Well, clouds started rolling into the Bay Area late this afternoon. It made it difficult to see the sunset, as you can see, but it certainly didn't keep the temperatures down. It was summer-like weather definitely back with us, and Andy's here to tell us how long it is going to last. I hope not too long.
Well, Kelly, at least probably through Tuesday or Wednesday, and looks like a cold front may be approaching us, unfortunately, on Thanksgiving. We'll have to take a closer look at that as things progress, but right now it looks like the possibility of a front coming through, then slightly cooler for Friday and Saturday. No cold air is headed our way, but maybe getting back close to normal. It's been so long since we've seen normal temperatures. We had a brief drop in temperatures over the weekend. Yesterday morning it reached 54, but this morning temperatures were coming back up again. 63 was the overnight low here in Tampa, then up to 85 this afternoon. The cool spot was up at Inverness. They had 52 degrees this morning. And Fort Myers had the area highest and also the state highest and also the nation's highest at 95 degrees after an overnight low of 71 there. Our average high came up to 85. That was an increase of 4. And our overnight low came up a whopping 7. That was up over the reading yesterday up to 64 degrees. And around the state right now, still summer-like conditions. It's just hard to believe we've had this long of a period of time of very warm temperatures. Much of the month of November has been above normal temperature-wise. 75 now in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, also Sarasota, Bradenton, an even warmer 80-degree reading down at Key West, and a little patch of cool air around Tallahassee. They have 59 degrees, and that's the state's coolest right now. Now, as Kelly showed you a little bit earlier, there were a few clouds that came through the west coast of central Florida, and those are generally moving off the coastal sections now. They did produce a few sprinkles. That will be the case tomorrow. You might see a few sprinkles, but no measurable rain is expected. Off the east coast, also a few clouds over there. In fact, those clouds on the east coast are containing a few light showers. They've had intermittent sprinkles off the east coast south of Cape Canaveral and also to the east of St. Martin, St. Lucie counties, rather, and those are moving towards the west, but they seem to dissipate as they move inland. Around the rest of the country, the ridge of high pressure bringing us the hot air is still hanging on, but this trough of low pressure is pretty strong over Texas. It's cutting off in the main trough of low pressure. The jet stream has really dipped pretty far to the south. Really cold pocket of air there, and it is moving towards the east, although the air behind us at the surface is mostly Pacific air. Now, ahead of that low pressure trough this afternoon, temperatures did get very hot, 95 as we said in Fort Myers, but Miami also hit a record high at 85 degrees. The 85 at New Orleans was the highest so late in the year. Even Pensacola came in with 79 degrees. There's the cold front we were talking about earlier that's moving into the mid-Mississippi Valley. Heavy rains are accompanying it. They have flash flood watches out for portions of southern Louisiana, and tomorrow, locally, rains could exceed 5 to 6 inches over central Louisiana as this storm system moves towards the east. Snow is on the northern side of the front over upper Michigan, mostly rain now in lower Michigan, but that will be changing over to snow. Also some snow over northern Minnesota. Very gusty conditions, Santa Ana winds along southern California. They've had wind gusts near some of the mountain peaks near Los Angeles and San Diego up to 50 miles an hour, and also heavy rains over the northwest Pacific coast. They have gale warnings out there, so it's kind of a blustery day, but it is bringing in slightly warmer air at the higher elevations, causing some snow melt. They've had some problems out there with some flooding. A lot of clouds in the center part of the country, and as you put it all to motion, you can see kind of a twist in the clouds over Texas with an upper-level system out there. The cold spot was Fairbanks, Alaska, the one extreme of the country, 26 below. At the other extreme, Fort Myers, as we said, had 95 degrees. New York City is at 51 right now, 48 at the nation's capital, and 31 behind that front in Chicago. Atlanta's 51 right now. After that record breaker in New Orleans, they're 73 degrees. 48 with heavy rain at Seattle, and Portland has some rain and 55 degrees. 44 right now at Dallas. Look how cool El Paso is at 37, and Los Angeles has 66 degrees. Right now at our Tampa studios, it's a very muggy 75 degrees. Even warmer over the Bayfront, it's 80. Humidity is way up there at 83%, and the barometer is rising now at 30 and 1300 inches. Our winds are out of the east-southeast, a little bit breezy tonight, 10 miles per hour. Bay temperature is 77. The last reported Gulf reading is 74. And our forecast, partly cloudy skies, continued warm right on through Tuesday, probably into Wednesday, 85 for tomorrow. There will be a lot of sun in between those few afternoon clouds. Now let's go back to Kelly with more news.
Thank you, Andy. Well, everything was Archie today in Tampa as comic strip lovers celebrated the teenager's 45th birthday. Joining the party were Archie writers and artists. One lives in Newport Richie, another in Miami. They work with Pep Comics by mail. Bill Bowling has been an Archie artist and writer for more than 20 years.
He was kind of crazy teenager, you know, a little zany, but he's not that much anymore. He has the other zany people revolving around him. I look at some, get the fashions out of the paper, and I keep an eye on what the kids wear. But the most important thing is the story. You have to concentrate on getting something that will keep the interest.
One of the biggest changes in the Archie character is his teeth. He used to have what the artist described as rabbit buck teeth. Well, they've since modernized them. Bowling says the cartoon characters will always remain teenagers, and so will he at heart. When we continue, Mark Haggard will have details of a big payday at the Virginia Slims tennis tournament. But for the Bucks, it was the same old story. Okay, big guy, you are on a roll now. You predicted the Lions, and they actually won. I can't believe it.
But isn't that bad? Isn't that bad? I have to predict the Bucks to lose in order to be on a roll.
I wish they'd win.
Another long day for Buccaneer fans. More than 10,000 no-shows despite this great Tampa weather we're having. 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions hurt Tampa Bay's chances to win against the Detroit Lions. Now, the Lions were only 3.5-point favorites, but they won by 3 touchdowns. Barely 30,000 watched the Lions-Bucks game at Tampa Stadium. The Bucks, who have won only 12 of their last 60 games, turned in another poor performance. Detroit hopped on the board first. Joe Ferguson, subbing at quarterback for the injured Eric Hipple, hits Jeff Chadwick on a 73-yard bomb. Chadwick was knocked out of bounds at the 1. On the play, Bucks cornerback Rod Jones was beaten badly. He actually falls down. It was the longest non-scoring pass play ever against a Buck defense.
It was a most definitely embarrassing day. I thought the team played well, but what else can they do when a cornerback like myself gave up 3 touchdowns? It was truly embarrassed, but I'm not going to be like ostrich and hide my head in the ground. I'm just going to have to come back fighting hard.
They got Rod, you know, in a lot of bad situations. We didn't get to the quarterback in time, and you know we can't expect him to cover the guys all day. You know he's a rookie, but he's good. And I guess it was just technique and us not getting a rush on.
One play following the Chadwick catch, former Florida Gator James Jones bowls over from 1 yard out, 7-0 Lions. The Bucks come back with a field goal, a 31-yarder by Donald Igwebuike in the second quarter. Detroit took a 14-3 halftime lead when Ferguson hit Leonard Thompson on a 4-yard pass. Thompson caught 2 TD passes on the day. Ferguson was 14 of 21 for 230 yards. The Bucks pulled within 14-10 midway through the third quarter. James Wilder grabs a 12-yard scoring pass from Steve Young, who was 23 of 31 for 218 yards. For Wilder, he rushed for a season-high 130 yards, but after this Wilder score, the Lions reeled off 17 unanswered points to ice it. Young was intercepted twice on the day, both times by Devin Mitchell.
We're not good enough offensively or defensively right now to have 4 turnovers. I can remember a couple of them in our territory and expect to have a chance to win.
When the Lions took a 31-17 fourth quarter lead, the fans were calling for the rookie out of Iowa, Chuck Long, to come in at quarterback for Detroit. On his first NFL pass, he threw a 34-yard touchdown to Leonard Thompson.
It was something to start off your NFL career with a TD pass and throwing to one of the veterans in the league, and Leonard Thompson. It's just a good feeling to have.
Did you get the ball?
No, I didn't get the ball, and I don't want it. Other guys deserve it. I think, I don't think where's that ball anyway? I want to keep that ball.
The Bucs lose it 38-17 the final. Tampa Bay's record is now 2-10. The Lions move up to 5-7. Next up for the Bucs, road games at Minnesota, then at Chicago, before returning home to play Green Bay December 14th. Florida's other pro football team, the Miami Dolphins, face the team with the best record in the NFL tomorrow night, the New York Jets. Now, the Jets are favored by 1.5 points at the Orange Bowl.